If you have any questions, please email me, Karla with a K at graceframe.com. I'm here to help. And let's start out with what ruler work can do. You saw some beautiful examples, but what ruler work can do is to enhance your quilt. And you can do it in different ways. So you'll notice that on this applique right here, they have used a ruler work border to draw your eye and attention to the applique. But notice the outside parameters of the quilt, it's a larger design, but on the inside, they've made it more dense and compact. And they've used little feathers on the side as little triangles to pull your eye. Now, it's just an interesting way to draw attention to certain areas on your quilt. And over here, this is a Judy Niedermeyer quilt. I like how they have used part of the applique and added some texture and movement by using the feathers here, and how they have surrounded it with a lot of dense quilting fillers right here, but they also have used some straight line quilting to draw you up and make it your focus on the main medallion part of this quilt. So just some really cool ways to utilize and learn how to use rulers to draw attention. We spend a lot of time piecing, and we know piecing really well. So it's a lot of fun to add and embellish our quilts. Now, a whole cloth quilt is just that. It doesn't have any piecing at all, but look how interesting it is by just using quilting. And what they've done is that they've used more layers of batting, and they've done some dense quilting in some areas to compact it down. And then other areas, it's just kind of puffy. So that is how they're adding texture and movement, is by how they're quilting and making it look like a trapunto, which I know that they have filled it in with trapunto, but I don't think so. Then this one down here, um, with the Dresden. Look at what they've done with the rulers as they've outlined it and done this curved little diamond, but how the diamond just kind of draws your eye to the Dresdens. And there's not a lot of quilting on the Dresdens because the fabric is busy enough, but there's so much interest on the outside of these Dresdens that it actually draws your eye to the piecing of it and makes it really kind of fun and a little more modern, which the Dresden is kind of an older fashioned design. Now, this is a Judy Madsen quilt, and she is a fabulous ruler work quilter. And look at what she's done with just very minimalist piecing, and how she's used design to draw your eye throughout the quilt. So I want you to start thinking about design and how you can use just simple design elements to create, just taking a quilt from kind of so-so to spectacular, like this whole cloth quilt. If you just saw the fabric, it's nothing, but with this beautiful quilting on it, it's stunning. All right, let's talk nine patches here. Okay, nine patches have really evolved throughout the years. So a little nine patch has become a bigger element, and we changed the way we piece it as well as how we quilt it. So you've got the disappearing nine patch, and then over here you have this one at the bottom. It's called the glorified nine patch. So all they did was they cut a curve into it. But look how interesting that same old nine patch that you've seen over and over again is, with just a simple little change to it. Also, this one right here is from So Kind of Wonderful. This is called the Urban, what is it called? Urban something or other. It's an Urban nine patch. And look how interesting it is. They have used that curve from the glorified, but they've added some borders to it. But look how they quilted it, how stunning it is. And it looks so cool. And this is just a nine patch design. So how would you quilt a nine patch? So what elements would you use to draw the eye? Let's start thinking about how we want to draw attention to certain areas on our quilt and what we want to highlight. And then how do we go about highlighting it? And rulers are just such a cool way to do it. But it takes time and effort to learn how to use the rulers correctly and getting your registration points. Now, I did this using my mouse. So these aren't perfect, you guys, but it just kind of gives you an idea of what you can do with just one simple little line patch. How would you fill in the blank spaces? Would you draw the eye towards the center, or would you draw it outwards towards the outer parameters? What directions do you want your eye or the people looking at your quilt to go? All right, and here's one that's the glorified nine patch with the curves. So how would you quilt the curves to add interest and to embellish it? And how would you draw your eyes and your attention to certain segments of the quilt? So you'll notice that on this piece right here, you don't have a big space for it, but on this one right here, you do. You have more of a space to put a lot of quilting in. And so would you draw it across or would you draw it down? What direction do you want your eye to go? Okay.
Okay, so I was trying to figure out a way that I could teach you how to use the paper like we do when we're sit down quilting. And
Oh,
I came
sorry.
up with this
Yes,
little
I can.
gadget because I was looking at my computer screen thinking about this. And see that I took it down off and put it right here on my desk. Okay, then I took the foot and I put it on a pen. You can't use a pencil, you have to use a pen because the pen rolls. The pencil doesn't, and so you won't see the lines, okay? So I wanted to practice with my foot so that I could practice repositioning my ruler. Now, this isn't the greatest setup, okay, but it works, you guys, and it will help you get that confidence that you need to move forward. So you could use this just for free to practice free motion quilting, or you can practice using the rulers. So you'll notice that I have the foot here. I'm using the foot right here next to my ruler, and I'm just going to move up it, just gradually pulling my quilt just like you would till I get to this corner. Then I'm going to pretend like my needle's in the down position because my pen is the needle. I'm going to reposition my ruler, and then I'm going to start moving across. Now, I can't really see it that great. You'll notice that. But it works. It helps me learn how to shift and move. So practice it this way, and practice your designs. I know it looks stupid, but it really will help you learn how to move your fabric, how to use your rulers, and what they do.
All right, so let's talk about the tools that you need for ruler work. We've talked about some of the feet that you can find out there. There isn't just one, but this screen is talking about for domestic machines and what pieces do you need. Now, I'm going to save you some money here. If you're using a domestic machine and you are actually sit-down quilting or free motion quilting, what you need is a ruler foot that has a high shank. Let's talk about the shank. This one right here is a low shank. It sits lower and closer to the fabric, where you could only use an 8-inch ruler. I don't want you. I didn't even know that you could buy a high shank domestic foot for your machine, and you can. And so I've given you some places to call and purchase that high shank. By purchasing the high shank ruler foot, then you don't have to reinvest in the 1/4-inch rulers. You can just buy them from the get-go. So when initially you upgrade to a longer arm machine, you don't have to reinvest in rulers and templates because we don't want to. We want to save money. So make sure that when you purchase the high shank foot. All right. And if you've already purchased some 1/8" rulers, I'm sorry. I did not know until I started doing my research that they had one out there. Otherwise, I would have stopped you a long time ago. But just know that I don't want you to have to reinvest. I want you to put your money towards what you want, but not what you have to later on down the road. So notice that there's a ruler base right here. This can sit on the table for your domestic machine, or it can sit on the carriage, the top plate of your frame. So you do need a ruler base to stabilize it. And if you don't know where to find it, it's So Steady. So Steady is the place to contact for your domestic machine, or if you don't have our machines. All right. This is what you need to do on a frame.
So my little gadget that I stuck to the screen, I can use the same gadget, but because I'm physically moving the handles of the machine, I can move this portion of the ruler rather than moving my ruler now, okay? And the fabric is going to be stable. I'm going to hold my ruler in place, and this is what long arm and quilting using a frame would be like. So I'd be pulling it towards me, then I'll stop here at the corner, and I'll hold it in the down position. Shoot, my fabric shouldn't be moving, but it is. And reposition it, because it's not tied to a frame, you guys. So just bear with me. And then I can move it along here. And this will help you learn how to use your ruler foot and the distance away that your needle is, and give you the accuracy that you need. You know what? Go and practice this, you guys, using your foot, holding the ruler up against it, and it will really help you understand how your rulers work before you get to your quilt and you don't know what to do.
All right, so these are the items that you need if you have a long arm and you are interested in ruler work. You need a ruler base. Our ruler bases have changed. They're a little bit longer and more stable. I love them. I love the stability of them and how to utilize it. And just they go on really quick and easy. I am going to show you the Wonderfoot. This is the Wonderfoot right here. It's a 360 Wonderfoot, so it rotates as you're quilting, but it has different lenses, which I will show you what the lenses are and what they do. Right here are some templates. I call these templates, not rulers. Rulers are for measuring. Templates are for adding design elements. Right here is our 3-piece hopping foot set. This hat includes the ruler foot right here, micro stipple foot, and I did show you these feet and the open toe on a previous Quilters Playground. So if you want to see how they are used, please go back and watch that. And then right here is our frame. The frame has handles, and if you aren't using a domestic machine, then you will use the handles that come with your long arm quilting machine. If you don't know where to find the ruler base, if you don't have our frame or our machines, then make sure that you contact So Steady to get what you need. But if you do have ours, go to graceframe.com. All right, and let's go and talk about threads. Okay, threads are really important, and you should be using at least a 40 to 50 weight quilting thread, but make sure if you're using that you're using the correct size needle to accommodate the different threads. I've done the long arm machines and the domestic machines. So if you are using your domestic machine, please use a larger needle with like an 8012 or a jeans needle 9014. That will really help you as you're moving across with fewer breaks. But again, the thread determines the size needle you'll use. So find out what the thread recommendations are for the size eye that you're using. And if you want to know more about the tension, I did a great series of tension videos earlier on in the Quilters Playground. Now, you'll need lots of paper. For you that don't like to doodle, oh, come on, doodling is just very relaxing, but just let yourself scribble at first, get all those anxieties out, and then just start honing your skills. It really does equate helping you become a better free motion quilter. And I really suggest that you just get paper and go through a whole ring. You will become more even, more precise, and more accurate as you're quilting across your quilt. And you'll learn how to stabilize and steady the machine itself. That's the confidence builder in you that you are growing. Make sure that you have good marking tools. I like to use a pencil and a little bit of chalk. I'm very hesitant to use the iron on or the water soluble. I've just had problems with them. So that's my hesitation. If you like using them, please use what you like to use. For designs, go out there. There's a world full of design inspiration. Start collecting designs. Start making your own notebook of how you want to use it. Make sure you have the true grips to put on the back of both your templates and your rulers to stabilize it so they won't slip and slide. You don't want that as you're pushing against them. And make sure you get quilt clips. These are really important because they help smooth out your fabric, but they also help give you that little extra tension that you might need as you're using rulers to help smooth it out so you don't get the wrinkles. If it's too loose, you will have wrinkles. All right, so let's talk designs. I gave you a little pattern to piece together. Now, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. It's just kind of a fun one to practice ruler work on. And this is one of the blocks. So in these blocks, I use the Wonderfoot to go around it 2 times. As an offset, and then I put a little feather design in it. Make sure your directions are cohesive, that they're pointing to the direction that you want to look towards. If you have one pointing one direction and it's offset pointing another direction, it might look funky and a little different because it's not cohesive. It's not drawing your eye correctly, and people will really notice that. So with ruler work, it's really important for you to get your directions correct as you're quilting. So use modern designs. How would you quilt this little block? And then these are practice. This is the little whirlwind block that I gave you, but look what you can do with straight lines. That's all you have to do is straight lines all over your quilt, but it will add a lot of interest and texture to it. And then you could do the straight lines in this one, but fill this one in with a filler design. All right.
Okay, try to keep as close to the edge as possible without going onto your batting. And number 2, use your hand to help with the tension to move the wrinkles across your quilt. So notice I lengthened out my stitch because I'm using a double layer of batting. And I'm just pulling my hand across my less dominant hand, and I'm just using it to go in front or to the right of the foot as I'm pulling it across the quilt to pull all the wrinkles out. Okay.
All right. I got one more here.
Okay, you guys, this isn't perfect, but you know what? It's the Quilters Playground, so I am playing and I'm learning as I'm playing. So what I did for the border here, okay? I measured out, I found my half mark, okay? Then I measured half of the half, and that was, I can't even remember, it's 10 something. And then I measured half of that, and then I broke it up into sections all the way across. Then I made my registration marks, so my lines. And you can tell it's not perfect, okay? But I'm going to get better as I go along. So I don't want you to get discouraged that, hey, it's slightly off or anything like that, because when we fill in this design, people may not notice, okay? And you know what? We're learning. All right, so, okay, you guys.
Sorry, you guys. All right. So I was talking about the registration lines and how important they are to help you as you're quilting and marking. Make sure that you can see, number 1, the registration lines, and make sure that you have good lighting. I was noticing as I was quilting, it was getting harder for me to see, and I was kind of getting off slightly. So make sure your lighting's good enough and your markings are prominent enough. That's why I like using a pencil, because I can erase the marks, and sometimes they can be covered up by the design that I am quilting, because I was using gray pencil and gray thread. So make sure that these marks come to this point, and then practice positioning your rule. That's why I did the rulers first, so that you could practice using them and seeing, getting from point A to B and making sure that you hit your marks all the way across your quilt. Because it's very easy to miss one of those marks and it can throw your design off. All right.
Sure your true grips are on your ruler. I like this ruler because I can see and I can hold and it sits flat. So what I'm doing is I'm using it to angle, and I have to angle it so that it will hit this mark here. And so hopefully, good luck. And I can kind of adjust it up. So it's just going to hit right on that mark. Then I'm going to stop, reposition my ruler, and keep going across, doing my crisscross. Then I'm going to fill in this section here all the way across, but I'm going to change my foot. I'm going to change my foot to an open toe so that I can see and make sure that I stay within these boundaries. And I'll just do a little swirl, or maybe I'll break it up and I'll do a little feather right here. You could break this up into a 60-degree. There's so many variations you can do.
All right, let's talk about some, glossary words, okay? A ruler, okay, is a person exercising dominion. That's what we're doing. We're exercising our right to rule over our quilts and design them. And it's also a straight strip or a cylindrical plastic, wood, metal, or grid. And it just helps us measure our certain distances. So there are lots of things that we should be measuring. Our borders are one, our blocks are the other, so that we can make sure that you have those measurements handy, especially if you're using the automation, you guys. I can't stress it enough. Measure, 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 and write down those measurements, and make sure it's very clear on what section that you have measured and what the measurements are for that section. I've screwed it up. I can't tell you how many times. So templates are just, they can be circles, they can be hexagons. They are to help you create designs on your quilt. So measure all the time. Measure your borders, blocks, and sashings, particularly. Really important. Registration marks. Registration marks are the marks that are going to help you move across your quilt quicker and faster, so that you have, and it can identify where you're supposed to position your ruler and make it to pivot to that point. So proportion is so crucial as we're quilting. Sometimes you can see quilts that are a little heavier in some areas and not. Just look, make sure that it's proportioned for you. You are the creator of this. I don't care if anybody else doesn't like it, but you have to like your quilt. You have to be happy with it. And to make sure there's harmony in your proportions. When I'm creating designs, I like to use designs that work well together. That's part of being a creator, is using designs that look cohesive. And so you might use a feather design or even straight lines, but you might use them more than once and more than in different ways across your quilt, just to make it cohesive. The golden ratio. The golden ratio is kind of that mathematical term that brings everything together and makes it pleasing to the eye. That's how they created in nature. And when you look at leaves or snail shells or seashells, there's that golden ratio that makes them very beautiful. I want you to think about, what is your golden ratio? What does that equate to you and as you're quilting? Then doodle. Doodle is just aimless or casual scribble. And it's not saying it has to be perfect. It's just aimless, and it's just making designs. And the more and more you do it, the better you'll become, and it will help you become a better quilter. Negative space. Negative space is that empty space around a block that you need to fill in with what we call up here at the top a filler design. A filler design is just a design that you're using repeatedly over and over and over again to fill in that space. And then lastly, it's balance. Just make it balanced and look nice as you're quilting. Um, Now, let's talk about filler it up. Let's talk about filler designs and how important the role that they play when you're using rulers and filling in that negative space. There are lots of different ways to segment a quilt up into sections. You could do it in little squares and add up and downs to it. This is called the piano keys. Look, notice these are just straight lines, but how they've added little circles or pebbles in it. And this one over here is the figure eight. It's just going up and down. But look how interesting it makes it. And it draws your eyes up and down. Then right down here, we have more filler designs. This one's drawn out on a piece of paper so that they know how to quilt it. By doodling, it really helps you understand direction and how you need to move and how you need if you're starting here at the top, how do you get to the bottom with one continuous design? Or how do you get back out of the corner? That's what doodling will help you with. Notice right here, we're using leaves and up downs, but also some pebbles and some swirls. Here's another page of doodles right here. Oh, okay. So with the doodles, you need to use the appropriate foot. And I've showed you the ruler foot, the open toe, and the micro stipple, but here are the lenses with the wonder foot. Notice that it has the crosshatch here. So that's really for stitching in the ditch along the line. It helps you. Even with the automation, I like the wonder foot because of this cross right here. And it really does change direction, but it also has a spring on it. Notice the spring right here. So it acts like a presser foot. So it's pressing down on your quilt, and it just is so cool. And it makes all your swirls more swirly and your circles more circular because of that. Now, here are the different lenses. We have the 3/8 offset, the 1/4 inch offset, and the stitch in the ditch. Then this one right here at the top is the 1/4 inch circle. I like to use it. And there's also one that's missing here. It's a clear lens, has no markings on it whatsoever. So you could just use that to free motion quilt. So you get a lot of different lenses. They're really easy to change out. All right. So here we go with the next foot.
I put on the Wonderfoot, and you'll see how the registration marks on the Wonderfoot will help you keep it in. And I'm just going to keep going in and in and in until I hit a nice little spot that I want to. And I'll probably put in different sizes. So let's try it out and do it. And just keep the ruler right up there next to it. And this helps keep it nice and straight. Okay, so now when that registration mark gets to right there, I can stop it. See how nice it is? Nice crisp corner. I can turn it this way and do the same thing across and all the way around. And I can keep going in. So it's kind of fun. But see, what's going to happen is it's going to turn. But because I have my ruler right there, it's going to hold it steady all the way across. But I'm going slow just to show you. Now, I'm going up and I'm going off. Dang it. I don't want to show them that.
All right, so again, here's some more filler designs. And these right here are just repeat designs. This is a little paisley. You've got swirls. You've got the figure eight. But look how fun they are. And they're just very simple. They're not hard designs to quilt. All right. And last but not least, okay, you guys, I want to talk about how I want to play a little game, okay? So what I want you to do is take a white piece of paper and break it up into sections, and then start filling in each of those sections. And how would you create or draw out any of these sections and fill them in with just filler designs? If you will start doing this, it will really help you with your quilting once again. And so I've given you some blank spaces. Okay, now You rule. You guys can do this. You can do anything that you set your mind to. You're very capable of it. You just need the right tools, number one. And as you start out, you will be a little wobbly. You saw that I had already unpicked on my quilt. It's plain as day, you guys. That was just, I had unpicked because it just wasn't coming together. I had to get into the groove. So I did do some unpicking, but I finally got in my groove and I can't wait to get back down to that quilt and start finishing it up and show you in 2 weeks what it looks like. I'm very excited about that. So just know the most important thing for you to do is to have fun and enjoy quilting. It's more important than a perfect quilt. If I can't leave any words of wisdom to you, that just have fun because it is more important than your perfect quilt. And your quilts will become perfect over time. Watch us again on YouTube, please. It really helps us. And subscribe to our channel. And then please share this with whoever, because I just want this community to grow. You are so important to the Grace Company, and you are who we are doing everything for. We want to hear from you. We want you to be a part of our family. I've always told you this. I don't know how many times you probably heard it. My mom had a big family. She had 9 kids, but she's always wanted more. And so you're welcome to be a part of the Grace family because my mom is adopting you all. And I don't care how old we are. So like, share, and subscribe. And let's just keep on quilting, every one of us.